Norfolk Southern, Valley Branch Line, defect detected. Milepost 10.5, defect, defective, head and axle 10 hot, dribble bearing north rail, total axles 29.
Welcome to the Val Valley's latest update. It's been some time since we've done an update, and we got a couple things to cover. I'm sorry it has been so long, but we've been very busy, or at least I have, with the 3D printing and all. Haven't had a whole lot of time for hobbying. So we'll take a look at our first. We are looking at Sutton, which is the main collection yard where all the local coal companies bring their coal to get loaded on trains. So there's several coal tipples. But what's new here is this chunk of scenery. For a long time it's just been a bench. Came out really nice. Some block wall, some old unused equipment that you would find around coal mines, rusting away, and a newer piece of equipment that seems to have quit working. Must have been scavenging parts and then their ride broke down. That old steam shovel kind of reminds me of Marianne and Mike Mulligan's. So for the most part, that's the newest part of the now fourth level. Between the what was the fourth or third level, we'll call it the top level for now, and that would have been this. We have a new yard which is stuck in the middle here like a sandwich. Kind of stretches, it ends right back there. And this yard is called Keddy Yard. It's in remembrance of a friend of mine, a model railroader who died years ago, young Tim Keddy. Was a good friend, so we thought we'd name it after him. It's a yard in a small space, and I wasn't really sure about putting a yard there because if you look, it sits right on top of the engine facility. I was afraid of how it would make the layout look. And it stretches quite a ways here. This is the tail of the yard here. You can see the switch panel for the engine facility up in Sutton. And it kind of leads around into Billings here into the corner. We got to put some lights in. And I got a couple more trees I want to put back in there. They actually have them. I just got to make some bases for them. And I want to put some more valance lighting up here because it's awful dark. But this is all new as well. And this is where the yard ties in. A little more that way to show you, but we'll go back to our yard here. The main yard itself is 6 feet long. Holds about, I figured, what was it, 20 cars or so. Right now it has our OCS train parked in the back. You can see our road railer. And 4 cars we don't know what to do with, and we have a empty siding. Originally this was just going to be a yard where I could put like passenger cars I wasn't using, because I don't like putting stuff on the shelf or anything like that. I prefer to have it on the tracks. After installing it, I found out it's a great operational thing. I make trains up that destinate there or go to the top level and then have to turn around because they're facing the wrong way because you have a steep grade that this branch ties onto. Behind it you can see the main line, or the branch line going up at a 2.5% grade, which is pretty steep, but before that, way the other side of the canyon, it's almost 4% in there. And we have some new stuff over there we'll be looking at in a second. But we'll go back to the yard. So because of the yard has close quarters, all the switches are hand throws, but you'll notice each one has its own dwarf signal, indicating the position of the switch. And then I have a little track diagram here that tells me if it's lined red, it's going to go this way. If it's lined green, it's going to go that way. And all we're using are my micro limit switches. Let's see if I can get the camera to focus in. And when you throw the switch over, the light changes to tell us which direction the switch is thrown. So we did that on all the switches up here. There's only 4 total in the yard and then 1 connecting. So we'll follow down to Billings a little bit away from the yard. You can see we put some background back there to try to give it some validity. Kind of nice. Billings got revamped. There's background for Billings now. There was no scenery at all here. There are some trees coming. we have a maintenance away siding here that will eventually have a couple of tampers and tie pullers and maybe a tie crane sitting on it. It's also an engine track for this side, place to hide the power for the yard. You have this one and this one, and they're intermediate signals, but what they really do is report the condition of the yard lead switch, which would be like, this is the lead in yellow. It always shows yellow because the very next signal may tell you to stop. Now if the switch is lined into the yard, you'll get a green. If it's lined for the main, you get the yellow. And over here, if we can look at the other two signals, see if they're both in frame, you'll notice the yard lead signal says you can't come out of the yard, it's red, and the branch line signal is at yellow. But if I throw the switch over, now it's lined for the yard, we get a green to leave the yard, and we get a red on the branch line. And again, that's another one of my little limit switches that the Caboose Industry switch pushes the blade on when you throw it over. And now the neat thing we have here, and this is a terrible place for it. I really guess I did myself in. This is a defect detector right here, and it's a functional defect detector for the most part. The bad thing is it's right at a yard lead, and why is it there? Well, because this is the longest block on the branch, and we put it right smack in the middle. The idea was you would get to nearly the end of the branch on either end before you got the report. You needed time to maybe stop your train and do an inspect. So that put it here long before Keddy Yard was installed and that switch was there. So it was still there. We thought about moving it. It doesn't really make much of a difference any place it goes. But the way this works is the switch here, when the flange rolls over, it pushes down the little tab there. And that little tab is supposed to count axles. Now, in reality, it's a very good plan, you know, counting axles like that. Problem is, not every flange is the same depth in HO. You know, we've got some that are prototypical and they're very little, and some that are monster pizza cutting flanges. Not too many of those on this layout. So our train axle counts never come out quite right. But what we did is if we go over here to the control panel for the defect detector. Now I've shown that before, but I redid the software, changed a few things. Oh, defect detector on and off switch. This is a recall. Last train that went through actually got hit by a defect, so I will play it for you.
Norfolk Southern Valley Branch Line defect detector. Milepost 10.5 defect. Defect defective head and axle 10 hot Google bearing no grain. Total axles 29.
Now the recall will pull up the last report. As soon as another train goes through, it'll clear the report and then it'll store the next one. And of course you've got the on-off switch for the detector. Like if you're switching the yard, you kind of want to turn that off. You don't want to hear it sound off every 6 times you go through the yard. But the defect detector adds a new interest to it. Now to the really cool stuff. You'll notice that we got backdrops in here on the back wall, which we didn't have before. They go behind the bridge, and they actually stretch all the way down, and they travel all the way around the curve. And on top of that, I got stonework on all the bridges before through town. They used to just be bare wood risers on plywood. Still got some ballasting to do, and even that one down there is done with some pretty neat looking brick paper with texture to it. So I also put in this wall here. This was opened and you could see the risers not too long ago. And what we have now is a maintenance yard. It's 2 tracks, but it's where I keep my maintenance equipment. Eventually there'll be a crane here. It's downstairs on the workbench, and all of our supplies. I imagine over time this will fill up pretty good. So moving back to the Val Valley itself, where work has really started. Take a quick look. I'm backing up here, trying not to fall over my stool. You will see that this is where our waterfalls are going to be. And you'll notice there's only 1 drink bottle and 1 rag there. It's the cleanest it's ever been. I'm going to have to find a new place to put my water bottles because the scenery is a-coming. Now I also did backdrop here that goes behind the roundhouse. Now the idea was to make it look like a vegetation bank that went right up to the next level of the track as best as we could. It's kind of hard to do a straight up version and make it look entirely right with the level above, but it didn't come out too bad. I got the retaining wall. These are like a foam brick sheet that I bought at or on eBay. This is one of them. They're a little on the expensive side. They're $15 a sheet, but they work real well. They're a little flexible. They cut real easy with a razor blade. And then I used the same brick wall that you see over here in Sutton. I got that block wall. They call it a seawall. I got that off eBay too. But instead of leaving it white, I painted it to match the retaining wall, and I also used trimmed up pieces to do the edges, because otherwise you get this, or if you've trimmed it you get really literally open foam, and that would look terrible. I used some of the seawall down along the edge there where it's going to meet the water, and on the same side, and we did the other side as well. I used foam to build up the landing back here to support my bridge. Is on a wood pedestal, and then the bridge abutment sits there, and we just cut the foam out with a hot wire. Very cool device. And then I glued scenery scatter on it and added trees. We did the same back to this side. Now, one of the things I wanted to mention, when you look at the backdrop here, I had to trim it to get it to fit, and I put the top up here. It's literally the top. I just trimmed it and stuck it up, and that kind of gives it that continuity look. And it's also different than the backdrop I used on the upper level. I wanted to get the idea that there was miles between the places, that different kinds of trees. You know, this is kind of a valley, and this is like up on a mountain type thing. So hopefully we got that feel. We'll go back over here. I did the same thing here. When I trimmed this background, I put the top halves back here. So I've got some lighting that's going to go in, and right now I'm planning Spooky Cemetery back in that corner. I'm going to put some special lights in there, and some black lights and some stuff I got going on. This is going to be our maintenance yard. It's new. There was a track here that came from the siding here. You always had to back in, and you only could get an engine and 2 cars at a time to come in this way. So what we did is we added a bridge, it's hard to see, or 2 plate bridges in the back here, and a spur that comes out to the main line here, so that now we can enter our little maintenance yard. And now I've got a place to throw a set of maintenance engines, or we can keep our Spirit car and its work crew and all of our other supplies. Okay, going back to the valley, this is where all the work is starting to take effect. I still have a lot of work. I've got to fill in some of this. I've got to put in here like that. On both sides, I've got to pull the bridges out. The upper bridge on the branch line is permanent. It's never coming out again. It's glued in. These will just lift out of here like so. But I ought to take it out and I'll explain it there. Now you can kind of see what's going on. But there's going to be a small waterfall back here. It's going to be kind of hidden. This is my test waterfall to see if my idea will work out. And the water's going to flow under the bridge, and it's going to drop down this big waterfall down to here. And there's going to be like a rock cliffs on each side. So it's going to turn out really nice. Now, one thing I wanted to show you, for the bottom of my water, we're always trying to find a better way to do water. And I found something that's either going to look really great or probably really poor. And pardon me, I'm trying to hold the camera and it at the same time. What I have here is a fish tank poster. This is for the back, you tape it on the back of your fish. And look at the wonderful waters. I'm going to use this cut in different ways into sections for both the running water and the waterfall's base. I'll show you that in a second. Okay, so what I'm planning, I got it rolled up again, is this section you see right here is going to get cut, and it's going to be used to make this and this area here and underneath the bridge. It's going to be rolled out. It's going to be cut to fit so it almost hits each shore so I can get some sand and rocks on each side. It's going to get glued in, and then after it's glued in, we're going to use these two products. Well, one of them I'm debating about. This is Realistic Water, but this is Water Effects by Woodland Scenics, and it's kind of like caulking material, but it dries clear. And so what I'm going to do is, once I have my poster there cut and glued down as the base, I'm going to seal the cracks, because that this water from Woodland Scenics likes to seep through everything, and I don't want my water pouring off. So I'm going to seal the edges real good. We're going to put in some sand and stones for the side. And then once it's sealed in, I'm also going to put a lip right here, maybe a 1/4 inch high. It's going to be the rapids for the beginning of the waterfall. So when I pour water, I have a spot to keep it. And that water is going to sit on top of this, so to give it a little depth before you see the image. Hopefully that turns out really nice. I'm going to do the same with this down here and the bigger waterfall. Now at the very bottom, I'm going to do it a little differently. Maybe you can image this or not. But I'm going to put so that the darker part is about there at the very back of the waterfall, where the water is real turbulent, you know, and I'm going to have water splashing around and stuff. And out here you can see it gets a little calmer, so it gets lighter color. And then I got stone molds and stuff, and I'm going to get more foam, and I'm going to do the banks and stuff, and have a lot of rocks in the cliffs. And my daughter wants swimmers at the bottom of the waterfall. So that's the project so far for Val Valley. Some of you are probably wondering about the engine or the power plant we were working on. Well, we ran into a small snag with that. It's over here. Let me get this lift bridge out of the way. It has become the shelf for all the stuff that was at the waterfall. The reason I haven't worked on it is, again, I've been real busy, but I'm having issues with learning how to weather pipes and machinery. I can weather a locomotive, but pipes seem to be a little bit different. So I'm going to practice that for a little while, and then I'll get back to the power plant. So probably as soon as I get done with the valley over here. Well, I hope this wasn't too long, and I hope you weren't bored. If you're new to the channel, please go ahead and subscribe, hit like, and hit the little bell so that you can be notified of our newest videos. If you have any comments, ideas, suggestions, please don't be afraid to leave them. Thanks for watching.